Back. This is the STS 14120 CNC sliding table saw from Baileigh Industrial. This beautiful saw comes with a 15-inch or 380 millimeter wide table that spans 10.5 feet or 3,200 millimeters. I love this big table because it keeps that product flat and square when you're cutting. That's a beautiful plus. We call it a sliding table because the entire carriage slides, so the whole entire panel slides. The nice thing about this is you only need one operator instead of two. Just think of that, saving one entire salary in your millwork or cabinet shop. Now the table itself is a huge anodized aluminum extrusion, very solid. It rides on this great rail system that's hardened, polished shafting. It's got a wiper system on it, and the reason I like these two combined is it keeps that dust particle buildup, so your table is always going to slide and be true. It also has, if you see, a table lock. So in this position, the table is locked. You can do some manual cutting or ripping in this position. But we also have a load lock. So we'll bring the table back. Now the reason why you want a load lock is you want those big panels, like the 10-foot panels, to lock in, load it, and then release it and do your cutting. It's a beautiful feature. Now let's take a little closer look at the fencing on this machine. As I was saying, this is a CNC slider table. So in the rip fence area, we have a servo motor that's tied to that touch screen. So when you dial in a dimension, the actual rip fence will go to that dimension instantaneously, no scales. On the actual fence backing, we have this huge cast iron frame, and this cast iron frame keeps that rip fence parallel to that saw. We also have a two-position rip fence itself. I can pull it off in seconds and be back in business with a higher fence. If you're doing some cross-cut sawing, this actual rip fence will lift out of the way. Okay, this is your gantry system. It moves along, it holds your product nice and level with the table. On this gantry right now we have your cross-cut fence. Now this cross-cut fence has two different types of measure. We have a digital readout with a product stop. So by repositioning this, the digital readout gives me the actual length into the blade. Put down your product stop, we're in business. Now if we have longer pieces, we'd simply move over here and we have a nice extension that comes out. Again, that's on a digital readout as well. It's a product support and a backstop. Now the second unit of measure here is that rip fence. Notice we have brought that rip fence behind the blade, and now it's going to be a back gauge as far as I'm concerned. So I'm going to type in 12 inches on here, and we will turn it into an automatic back gauge. So automatically we have a perfect measure, a perfect back gauge for crosscut sawing. So I'd stick my material down here, put my hand on the fence, maybe on the material a little bit, and actually bring that product through the blade. We have a perfect cut every single time. So for production, I mean, this is just a fabulous saw. Move your sheet down and do it again. Notice how this gantry just moves smoothly throughout the whole process. That takes a lot of that jitter out on the cut. It's just smooth every single time. Also, these panels, cross-cutting and for rip sawing, are done with one person. So let's go to a panel cut. If I had to do a panel cut, you know, I could possibly reposition this gantry on the table. I would take this fence, I would move it forward, and I can do that by releasing these quick releases. Now the fence, where I was using it as a push before, now I'm going to use it as a stop. So I'm going to put these product stops forward, and I would put a panel on here now. Now behind me is an actual bump rod. Now I'd position myself between the sheet and that bump rod. By pressing down on the material, I can actually do that rip just perfectly. The bump rod also acts as a great return. So this is just a fabulous production saw for any type of cross-cut or ripping where you want to use one person to make a product perfect every single cut. All right, this is our final fence. This is our angle fence. On it we have a product stop. It also has an extension. So you can bring the product stop out depending on the size sheet that you have. It's got a nice scale here, 45 degrees, 90, 45. Right now it's at 45 degrees. We'll put it at 90 degrees and then lock it in. If we want to go 45 degrees in the other direction, there we go. That's your angle fence, as easy as that. All right, here we're at the guards section. We're going to pull this one out and put this nice miter guard on. So we'd simply take the push rod off, make sure that's open, slide it out. Now if you look real close, there's an opening here, and there is a dust port at the head. That's for your dust collection. The other nice feature of these guards is they do have rollers on both sides. So we'll place this one down, put our new miter guard on, make sure we get it in there tight, put our push rod back. The other nice feature is there is a cabled with a tension control device for bringing that guard down, nice and square. So again, to change out these guards is pretty much a couple seconds. All right, let's take a closer look at the blade system on this great machine. So I got to slide this table forward to expose the trunnion. Okay, now that we've got access, this is a safety interlock guard. We do have the machine shut off and powered down at this moment. But simply open this up. Again, it is safety interlocked. Inside of here, we've got the trunnion. Now, the trunnion on this machine is a heavy cast single piece unit. The thing that I really like about this unit is the ways are actually boxed. So instead of dovetail, this is boxed, giving it massive amount of rigidity. We've got two blades in here. Now, the maximum capacity on the blade right here is 14 inches or 350 millimeters. The scoring knife is actually 4.5 inches or 115 millimeters. Now let's close this up and then we'll do some programming. All right, here we are at the touchscreen controller. We're going to put in some simple adjustments on this machine in the manual mode. If you take a look up here, we're going to change this blade height. We're going to put it up to 2 inches. So I simply type in 2, hit enter, and start. Now you can see that the blade is actually going up. Okay, secondly, I'm going to go to the blade angle. I may put it to a 45 degree, hit enter, and start. Now you can see that the blade is actually turning to a true 45 degrees. Just a nice thing to have, no tools. It homes itself at the end. And let's bring that back gauge, let's bring that to 24 inches. Pretty fast. There we are. So we brought the blade up, we put it to a 45, and we've got this back gauge at 24 inches. All right, here we are in the manual mode. We just finished up with that. We've got our blade down, we've got our angle at 0, and the back gauge is quite a bit away. So let's go into the planning mode. The planning mode, we're going to hit this button, hit this little calculator. And here's coordinates on the machine. I'm going to zero them out. So let's say that the end cut board, we want to cut to 24. Simply enter it. The board thickness we'll say is 1. We'll say the angle is going to be 45 degrees. And the size of the board is going to be 48. Hit this check button. Well, actually, I'm going to hit this calculator first, and it'll give us the rest of the coordinates. And I'm going to hit this check button. We're back to the main screen. Those coordinates are now listed. And we're going to hit start. Back gauge comes up. At the same time, the angle of the blade is being put into gear. It's going towards 45. And the final thing that's going to happen is that blade is going to come up. Okay, the blade is up. The back gauge is making its final adjustments. Hit your start button, and you're in business. So if you want to find out more about this great product, the STS 14120 CNC sliding table saw, or any of our other products, go to www.baileigh.com. Thanks for joining us.